What's the most disrespectful thing that's happened to you in the service industry?
So back when I was a server, I worked at this one really, really nice Italian restaurant. And during the day, we would have specials where things are cheaper. You can get like a buy one, take one home pasta and or like a meal where it comes with like whatever. Anyways, this couple comes in and like this is for all the girls out there who are always like, oh, a waitress is looking at my man. Like, no, it's like, dude, don't be disrespectful. Literally, waiters and waitresses are being paid to be nice. They want you to feel good and enjoy your experience. And so when I'm smiling and I'm being super nice and I'm asking you what you want and giving you recommendations, is because that's my job, not because I'm trying to hit on you. Anyways, this girl and her boyfriend order salads to start. So her boyfriend orders a salad and he adds like 3 things onto it. And adding 3 things onto it makes it like $7 extra or whatever. And so I point out, hey, on the menu, we actually have this salad exactly as you want it, and it's significantly cheaper because you're not adding anything to it. Would you like to order that instead? And the girl looks at me and she's like, my boyfriend just told you what he wanted to order. Ooh, he looked at her like he did not want to be there. He looked at her like, you are like literally disgusting me. And then he looked at me like, I am so fucking sorry. He didn't say sorry. He just looked at me pleading, like, please read my mind that I'm so sorry. And I just looked at her and I was like, okay, so I'll be right back with that. Thank you.
I worked in really popular nightclubs in Hollywood around 2010. I waited on a ton of famous people. This one takes the cake. I walked over to his table and he said, hey, my table's a mess. Can you clean it up? I said, sure. Wiped down the table, made sure everything was clean, walked away. And then I hear this. Anyone who works in the service industry is triggered by that noise. I calm myself, walk over there. He says the table's still messy. Sure enough, something had spilled again, wiped it up, walked away from the table. He says, the table is still messy. Are you bad at your job? And I lean over to look at the table and it is bone dry. And while I'm leaned over the table, he pours cranberry juice on the back of my head. I snap. I grab the bottle. I jump up. I wedge his head between the wall and the bottle. And I inform him that he will not be making actions like that again if he wants to have a singing career. I almost got fired. And I'm much calmer now.
All right, so here's your beer. Let me know if you need anything else. Ma'am, come back here. Is there a problem? This beer isn't cold. Well, I mean, our coolers are working. Is anybody else's beer at the table not cold?
Ours are good.
Well, have you tried it? Well, I know it's not cold because my glass is not cold. Well, ma'am, we don't really refrigerate our glasses, so you may just gotten a fresh one out of the dishwasher. So just try it out and see if the actual beer is not cold. No, I'm not going to try it because I know it's not cold, and I'll go get me a new one. Sure thing. Alrighty, a fresh new pint for you. Hopefully it's cold enough. Ma'am, my beer is still not cold. Look, you can't determine the temperature of the beer based off the temperature of the beer glass. So please, just take a sip and try it. Fine. Oh, it is cold. Well, y'all should start frosting your glasses so people won't make this common mistake. You're the first one to ever make that mistake.
I worked at this bar in college, very much a bro-y type sports bar, okay? There was a group of probably around 10 to 15 guys that were just standing in the way. Every time I would walk past them, they would kind of crowd me in a circle, like trap me, and then try to get me to dance with them. I kept saying no. They tried to get me to drink with them while I was working. I said no. I said, I'm working. Can you please move out of my way? I was very polite. But this one guy was very persistent and would not stop. I started to get frustrated with him. And in front of all of his friends, when he grabbed me, I said, can you get the off of me? Don't touch me. And all of his friends proceeded to make fun of him. Fast forward, 20 minutes later, I need to carry a tray of about like 16 shots, 2 draft beers. I'm walking past that same group, and this man slaps the tray completely out of my hand, and I am dripping in beer. And all of his friends proceeded to laugh. I cried.
This is just one of many. So it was probably 7:30 in the morning. And I guess we're going to talk about when we opened at 7. So this car pulls in as a family. The wife is screaming at her husband so loud. And I will never forget, he ordered 2 Supreme tacos. He gets to the window. The wife's yelling at him. He pays for the tacos. He comes back in. throws the tacos. He's like, I ordered Supreme. I work graveyard shift and da-da-da-da. And it's only 3 of us ladies, 3 women. And we're looking at him like, he's like, I work hard. I work hard. And I'm like, I don't know what just happened with you in the car with your wife. He didn't talk to us like that. So we give him his tacos. He's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm having a hard day, blah, blah, blah. So moral of the story is customers will really take out their miserable life on you.
I remodel bathrooms for a living, and I've done so for the last 30 years. So this guy hires us to do a custom bathroom. We come in, 2 weeks later, we're done. So we have to end up taking all of our tools out to the trailer at the end of the job, and we're cleaning up the bathroom, getting everything done. He's kind of anxious and hurrying us along, and I thought maybe he had to be at an appointment or something, but he wanted to make sure we had all of our tools, got everything. And so finally, and we got the bathroom clean, and I told him, I said, okay, now I'm going to go out and get the contract. You need to sign it again and get me my final check. So I turn around and I go out to the truck, come back to the front door. The front door is locked. I knock on the door. He says, yes, can I help you? And I'm like, it's me. I got the contract. I need my final check. He says, no, thank you. Have a good day. And so I proceeded to knock on the door. I thought maybe he was joking or something. He says, if I don't leave his property, he's going to call the police. And I was like, well, okay, call the police. So the police come. Police tell me there is nothing that they can do for me, that this is a civil matter. They would try one thing to, kind of threaten him a little bit, that what they could do, and see if he'll write a check. He knew the law. He laughed at him, and that was basically it. I was out the $4,000 that he was left to pay me, and it made it a real hardship that week, because I owed my workers their paychecks, which I did give them, but I didn't get paid anything, and I actually lost money out of my savings. The fun part is we did sue him in court, and we won, and the judge was so mad that he did that to me that the judge actually rung him up with all kinds of charges. Time missed from work to come to court, service fees. The list was just enormous. By the time he was done, he owed me $12,000. We put a lien up on his house, and he eventually had to pay it. But that took almost a year until I could get that last bit of pay. Sometimes being a small business owner really hurts.
I'm a head chef at one of these restaurants in Midtown Atlanta, and it's Mother's Day. Y'all know it's the busiest day of the year, and I already told them in advance that my family is coming. My sister just had a baby, so my family gets there at their scheduled time because everything is booked and ready. I'm about to surprise my family with this whole spread. Everybody got on headpieces, right? So I hear the owner of the restaurant and the general cokehead manager go, don't fucking sit her family, them, get the money. We got on headpieces, and you talk about my family. It's on the floor in the restaurants. The sewage drain broke, so we were literally cooking in the kitchen, walking through. Then you said, my family, baby. I packed my knife bag and told all my cooks goodbye. I quit.
Okay, so this happened when I was 14 at my first ever job at KFC, right? So back in the day, we had like zinger meat pies. I don't know if you remember, but they were delicious. Anyway, so this old man comes up. He was already pissed off. Like he was mega fuming. And he comes up and goes, yeah, good night, mate. Like he was just real pissed off. Anyway, so he wanted 4 zinger meat pies, and we only had 3 warm ones. So then that set him off. He was already complaining about that because he didn't want to wait. So anyways, he took the last 3 that we had, and then he paid and he walked off. And then like 10 minutes later, he comes storming. Like, I mean, he had murder on his mind. He comes storming straight to the counter, pushes through all the people lining up, and he looks at me and he goes, you, check the temperature of that meat pie. And I went, what? And he goes, check the temperature. And I was like, I don't want to. And he grabbed my hand, right? Grabbed my hand, and I was like this. I was so scared. And he popped my finger out, and he stuck it in the meat pie, and he goes, does that feel hot to you? Like, my shivers were timbered. Like, I was shaking in my steel gut boots. Like, I was this 14-year-old fat kid. I was like, no. He's like, well, fix it. And I was like, you're gonna have to wait like 20 minutes for the zinger pies. And he's like, I'm not gonna be waiting. Anyways, yeah, that's what happened. And he blew up a big Karen moment. And then he ended up getting 4 meat pies for free. Joke. So, yeah, that's what happened. Real traumatic. I'll never work in fast food ever again. I really feel for people that work in fast food because honestly, from my experience, that is hard.
So I used to work at the Courtyard Marriott Hotel here in a certain city in Alabama. This one particular night, we had a guest who had some mental health issues. I checked him in and everything. I could tell something was off, but I wasn't really sure what was off. So, of course, I'm not going to make anything about it other than just a note to let the person who's working night audit to know. This person kept calling down to the front desk saying folks was knocking and banging on their doors, saying that, he had estranged members of his family who were stalking him and trying to find him because he was asking his wife for a divorce. And they were shining their lights into his room and trying to come and find him. He was, going through a lot. What I later learned was a paranoid situation. So I go up to his room, try to calm him down. And at the time I do that, he's really calm and relaxed. But then he says, I want to make sure that you're not working with him. And he grabs his gun and he points it in my face. He then forces me down to the lobby, which means I have to walk past guests and things like that and keep everybody calm. As if that's not traumatic enough, my manager asked if I'm going to come to work on time tomorrow the next day.
When I used to work at the bank, it was my first bank job. I started as a teller. That's where I started at. And there was this customer that used to come in. Everybody in the banking center used to know her. She was a judge here in Las Vegas, or she was retired. So everybody at the bank knew her. They knew her by name. They never used to ID her. I guess that was her thing. She didn't like to be ID'd. However, I was brand new. I had never seen her before. Obviously, I think it was like maybe my second or third day in the register or in the door as a teller. And I had just taken the training, and in the training, it tells you the importance of IDing people, even if you know them. Every time you got to cover yourself. You don't really know these people. It's not like it's your cousin, your neighbor, your friend, or whatever. And even if it was, you weren't even supposed to help those people. You were supposed to send them to someone else, right? So she came to my line. She cut the line and came straight to my window. My window was the one all the way to the end, the last one. So the line started, a little to the left side. So she literally cut all those people because that's how entitled she felt. And she came to my window and, handed me a little piece of paper where her account number was on. So of course I took the little piece of paper, I typed in the account, and then I asked her if she had an ID, and she went off on me. Like, she went bananas. She was like, do you know who I am? I'm so and so. I'm a retired judge. How dare you? Everybody in this bank knows me. You obviously don't know me. Otherwise you would know you don't have to ID me. So, I was like, okay, another way for me not to ID you, do you happen to have a debit card? And she was like, of course I don't have a fucking debit card. That's why I gave you my account number. And I was like, okay, ma'am, I definitely understand. I do apologize for the inconvenience. Unfortunately, I personally don't know you, so I do have to ID you. If you don't have your ID, then a debit card would work. But if you don't have an ID, I do need your ID. So she just goes on a rant and goes off about how special she is and who she is, and she's a judge. And then this looks at me and says, ¿Habla español? Yeah, don't you see this nopal? Aquí, en mi pinche frente. ¿No lo miras? ¿No lo miras? Por supuesto que habla español. So, I'm still trying to be as polite as I can. And I was like, yes, ma'am, I do. I speak Spanish and English. And then she started saying, go back to Mexico. And, she just started running her mouth and being very disrespectful at that point.
I was working an early shift as a barista. I think it was like 3 or 4 a.m. And I was the only one working. It was a drive-through. This guy would come through every single morning and order the same exact thing. But today he must have just woken up on the wrong side of the bed because I handed him his drink, medium-sized, scorching hot drink. He takes a sip and then immediately throws it in my face and then speeds off. So that was really great. And then he came back the next day and pretended like nothing happened.
Y'all ever had somebody call you a idiot over a salad?
I have. Let's go. All right, so I work at a restaurant in Myrtle Beach at the #1 tourist attraction at the beach. So just keep that in mind. And I just got promoted to manager. So, and this actually happened last night because I thought I had a lot of stories, but this one tops the cake, y'all. I'm telling you. So I'm expoing. I only had one food runner, so I'm in the window and I'm handing him the food to take out to the guests. Right? My particular restaurant has a build your own salad where you get to pick your lettuce, pick your toppings, pick your meat, and pick your dressing all on you. Create your own. Right? So 3 salads come in for one table. I check it, make sure everything's right when they're made, send it out with my food runner on his way, right? About 3 or 4 minutes go by, my food runner comes back, pissed off, and is like, these salads are wrong apparently. They need to be fixed. So I check them again. Asked my food runner if he's alright because I've never seen him mad like that. And he said, well, the man at that table is a and I don't want to go back to them. So I said, okay. Did they ask for a manager? He was like, no. I said, okay, well, it's more professional if I go out there after their food was wrong and I'm back here. So I will take it back out there once we fix the problem. So I look at all the salads, go one by one, and they're all right. So I'm confused. So I take them back out there on the tray. But before I hand them out, I ask him, I'm like, hey, my name is Madeline. I'm the manager. I heard there was an issue with your salads. Is there anything I can do for you? When I tell y'all this man was on 1,000 when I stepped foot at their table, okay? He said, yes, the dumb young man that brought my salad out before, it was all wrong. You're all idiots. I don't understand how hard it is to make a salad. And I look at him and I go, well, unfortunately, all of the salads that were brought out to your table were exactly how your server put it in. So if there's an issue with it, I need to know so I can let your server know to ring in the right one for you. And one of the other older men that were on the other side just chimes in. He's like, well, my salad was right, so I see you have the salads over there, so can I have mine? And I go, absolutely. So I hand him his salad. And then, since you want to call me an idiot, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to list off every single ingredient in this salad. So I start listing off the ingredients one by one. I'm just like this. I'm like, did you order mixed greens? Yes. Did you order banana peppers on your salad? Yes. Did you order craisins? Yes. Did you order pecans? Yes. Feta cheese? Yes. And a plain grilled chicken breast? Yes. And Cabernet vinaigrette? Yes. And I was like, oh, would you look at that? I actually have a salad here on this tray that matches that entire description. So here you go. And I go to hand it to him. He goes, I ordered a plain chicken breast. So I look at him and I'm like, this is a plain grilled chicken breast. He said, well, it has black on it. I go, well, you did order a grilled chicken breast and our grill is open flame, so it does char. He goes, whatever. And as he's like going back and forth, his wife chimes in and is like, I ordered Cabernet vinaigrette and this is not Cabernet. I look at her and I go, I can assure you that that dressing is Cabernet vinaigrette. I poured it myself. And the man goes, well, congratulations. You finally got something right. I look at him and I go, thank you for your cooperation. You have a great night. Just a kid. Like,
so I worked at Dairy Queen for 2 years, and if it wasn't bad enough that I had to go home every single day smelling like some moldy booty cheese ice cream and stale chicken strips and fries, that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part is having to deal with the customers. One day I was working front counter. This guy comes up to the counter and I ask him what he wants. He says, I'll take a number 3. I was like, okay. I reach under the table, grab his drink that comes with the number 3 and sets it on the table. Looks up at me and says, what the is that? I was like, it's your drink cup. He said, I didn't ask for that. I said, well, you got the number 3, right? That comes with a drink cup. And he says, how old are you? At the time, I was like, 17. And he says to me, well, you need to talk less and listen more. Oh, lordy. Then I want to backhand that little... I was like, okay, well, I could just not give you your drink cup. Then he mumbles to himself, I don't know what's wrong with you people in this town. You need to go back where you came from. First off, I was born here. What do you mean go back to where you came from? You want me to go to the hospital I was born at?
Oh, I worked in food forever. I have so many of these, but this is one of my favorites. I'm going to preface it by saying that legally throwing anything on somebody that isn't water is assault because they could be allergic to it. One morning at Starbucks, this lady rolls through super early. She orders 5 small hot chocolates and a drip coffee. In her drip coffee, she wants a half a sweet and low, 1.7 ounces of cream, and 3 dashes of cinnamon on top, exactly. I don't know how you make a drip coffee hard. Made her whole life hard. So she gets to the window. I tell her the total. Immediately irate about the total. She meant to order 5 baby hot chocolates. That's a whole nother size and price entirely. As we're remaking her baby hot chocolates, I hand her boiling coffee out the window to her. She opens the cup in her car to make sure I didn't fuck it up too. The boiling coffee gets on her hand. It makes her jump. She gets it all over her lap and car. And then she looks at me in my eye, screams, "You f***ing burned me," and throws the rest of the cup of boiling coffee back at me through the window. I was a child.
So for me, it was when customers would come in.
Back when I worked at Red Robin, a Spanish woman cursed me out in front of the entire restaurant. But before we get into why she cursed me out, let me give you some background. Imagine growing up in a Puerto Rican household, not knowing how to speak Spanish. You understand it, but you don't know how to speak it. So your grandmother gets you to watch novelas all your youth so that you can learn some Spanish. And then you're a straight C student in Spanish in high school. Even till this day, your friends and your family still make fun of how poorly you speak Spanish. Yeah, that's me. I can speak Spanish with people I feel comfortable with, but with strangers, it just comes out like mishmash. So I speak Spanglish when I can. When I worked at Red Robin, tables would come in and I would decide, am I going to speak Spanish to them, or am I going to wait till I feel comfortable, or am I just going to speak English the whole time? And I would go from there. 9 times out of 10, I would say at least one thing in Spanish to kind of just get the vibe going in a positive way. But this one day, y'all, this woman tried my life. Her entire family tried my life. They come in, everyone's yelling and screaming. Sit down at my table. It's like a party of 12 or 15. Like 4 or 5 adults, I think. Every single adult was talking about me and about my coworkers and just the restaurant in general. So I didn't say anything in Spanish. I said, hi, y'all. How you doing today? What can I get you started with? My good old Southern Florida-ness. And, they spoke English just fine, too. So there was, like, not really a language barrier. They just only spoke Spanish to each other. And when they did speak Spanish to each other, they were calling me things that go against the community guidelines that I cannot say in this video because this will get taken down if I say it. Even the kids were making fun of me in inappropriate ways. Meanwhile, oh my gosh, thank you. The food is so delicious and hot. You're doing amazing. Your service is so good. All in English. Meanwhile, my other Hispanic coworkers are like, are you going to say something to them in Spanish so that they know that you understand what they're saying? And I said no, because I'm going to let that ball drop hard. Even my manager was just like, I cannot believe how much I'm hearing from that table. Like, you're doing fine. I had everybody in my corner, okay? I go to bring this woman and her family the check. I say, is there anything else I can get you today? And she's like, no, everything was so amazing. You were great. You were wonderful. Thank you so much. And then in Spanish, she told the other people, I'm going to leave him $3 as the tip on a $250 tab. Still thinking I did not know Spanish. So then I said, gracias mucho por venir. Nos vemos después y que disfrutan la fin de semana. That woman's jaw dropped. She shot up out of her seat, got into my face, and was like, you knew Spanish this entire time? And she's like, well, why didn't you speak in Spanish? That's disrespectful to us. And I said, no, what's disrespectful is everything you and your family have said since you walked into this restaurant, since you sat down in my section, even the things your children said that you didn't think any of us knew you were saying. And she's like, oh, I want to speak to the manager. After she cursed me out in front of the whole restaurant, by the way, in English and Spanish. And the manager comes up and says, I understood every single word you said the entire visit, and he did nothing wrong. He was great to your table. The woman just stood there in awe. I just think it was funny this woman felt the need to talk about me in a language I knew that she was offended I didn't speak to her in.
So I, believe it or not, worked at Hooters. And I have a ton of stories from Hooters where it's just like, I mean, I feel like it's a given that you're going to have stories like this working at Hooters. But this is one of my favorites. So let me give you a little bit of backstory, okay? So I started working at Hooters because I was like, yo, like, it's a big deal. It's crazy. I just moved to Florida and I was working at the original one. And it was such like a cool thing, you know? And also they help with your scholarships. They help with your student loans. They buy you school materials and your books and everything. And I was going to college full-time, by the way, while doing this job. So this morning, like every morning, they line you up like dogs and then they check, make sure your weight looks the same, your hair looks the same, your nails aren't broken, your makeup's on. They can't legally tell you to be doing any of this or to not gain weight, but they can fire you without question, or they can give you like a really section with 2 tables outside in the rain. My friend got a really good section and it was basically one where people are going to come in all the time. It was booths. And she's like, I can handle it. And she's got a bunch of tables and she ended up being in the weeds like ASAP-ery, extremely quick. So being a good friend, I'm like, I'm going to help you out. She's like, oh, take one of my tables. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll take that table. And that's where my story begins. So at this table, there are 3 gentlemen and they look like rednecks, but I love rednecks. Okay, sometimes we turn it up and sometimes you get the racist ones. It's really just hit or miss. So I walk up to the table. I'm like, hi, how are you? My name's Ivy. Like, can I take your order? Whatever. They have no idea what they want. And now, mind you, I've done this 3 times. You know, I go up and I'm like, can I take your order? And they're like, oh, we're ready. And I stand there for 10 minutes. Like, okay, I'm gonna come back, you know. Eventually they decide, and every time I come back they're more and more annoyed, like, at the fact that they don't know what they want. So I offer something. Hey, how about I get you 10 wings and hot, right? That's what they decide they wanted. They wanted it not breaded. I go, I get the order, it comes out really fast, I bring it back, it's not breaded, it's perfectly exactly how they wanted, and then they kind of like scoff, and I'm like, oh, is everything okay? And they shove their plate at me, and whenever I mean shove, I mean it slides across that greasy table because Hooters is undoubtedly covered in grease. So he proceeds to tell me that the meal is wrong and that I should go back and fix it. And I'm like, no problem, whatever you want. You know, this is the second time I've taken their order. I go back, I fix it. And granted, each time it takes about 10-15 minutes to drop new wings. So I bring it back again and they tell me like it's wrong again. So they're throwing this plate at me, like splattering all over my cute little white shirt. I take it back again, I have it remade, and by like the third or fourth time of me doing this, I bring it out and I'm like really like astounded. I'm like, bro, this is a lot of wings, they're just wasting it. And I feel like they were just doing it to like kind of fuck with me. But I finally bring out the correct order. So the gentlemen are satiated and they're like, oh, finally. And I'm like, okay, if there's anything else I can do for you. I turn to walk away. He's like, ma'am. And I'm like, yes. And he's like, you proved something to me today. And I'm like, oh God, what could it be? And he's like, you proved that you can't be pretty and have a brain. And I was like, wow.
I used to work at Hooters. I have a endless supply of stories of being disrespected. But this one just really takes the cake. One time I had a table, it was like a father and son. They're fine, they were drinking beer. Didn't expect to have any issues with them, right? They asked for the check. I bring them the check, the dad looks at it and he sees my name on the check, I guess, and he's like, oh, your name is so cool, it's like so exotic, where are you from? So I told him, yeah, I'm from Mexico, I was born there. And he replies to that by saying, oh, I'm a retired ICE officer. What part of Mexico are you from? I am standing there in shock at how quickly he responded that. And also I didn't know what the fuck to say. So I'm like, yeah, I'm from Oaxaca. And he's like, oh, y'all know how to party, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, we do. Guys, this man says, yeah, every time I caught people from Oaxaca, they were always just the coolest, just the nicest, coolest people. Every time I caught them trying to cross the border. What the fuck am I supposed to say to that? Anyways, he tipped me like 10% and then I cried in the bathroom. So that was really cool.